By the military-industrial complex.
It could be seen to move violently forward, violently forward, violently forward.
I'm just a patsy. Let's win there.
I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance.
You think about the Army and the Navy and the missions they run to protect the world, they run on SAP.
Well, you have done a really spectacular job. I guess pretty much everybody at this table is your customer, so
Exactly.
That's not so bad.
Exactly.
I want to congratulate
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Everybody at this table is your customer, George. How you doing?
Well, I guess that makes everybody at this table your customer. That's pretty good, I guess. Yeah.
I guess if that's what you're selling, I always cut to Klaus. I always like the way that the filmmaker who made that film that I grabbed that clip from cuts to Klaus right after Trump says that.
Well, now we're finding that if you were in the business of bioagents with anthrax, and you also were working with different other toxins like thing that causes staph infection, like staphylococcus or streptococcus, those people are your customer too.
Or Stephanopoulos.
Well, Stephen Hatfill for sure. And the big, huge story that broke today was...
Are you talking about this book here, George?
Well, that guy ran Fort Detrick while Ivins was there and while Hatfill was there. But the big news today is from Charles Rixey that Ivins and Hatfill worked on a version of anthrax which added staphylococcus, which they added other pathogens to amplify the protective antigen response. So this is not like saying they were at the same water cooler or they shared the same drinking fountain or they, made eraser animals in an eraser animal contest or something, or a football contest. This is them working together on a scientific project, right? In 2003.
And who is this Rixey guy, and where do we find out about that?
Charles Rixey is a guy who was a Marine. He was in charge of, he was a CBW officer, chem bio weapons officer, and then he went into the Marine Guard, if you will, for all the embassies. So the reason why they put those guys in there is somebody's mailing anthrax letters or whatever to the embassies. You want somebody who's been trained, who can say, no, don't open that envelope. And so that's how he's been all over the world, protecting the various embassies for the State Department around the world. So, and he's quite well known in the Twitter X community. So he's a commenter, but he really knows the sequences. He was a big part of Drastic. If you remember, Drastic was this kind of citizen journalism group that was looking into the origins of coronavirus and so forth. And he did a lot of really good work with some folks. I think there's some things that were missing in the analysis, just to be on, to tell the whole story. But certainly for the part that he tells, it was pretty darn good. Pretty good, darn good.
So Rixey was a Marine Guard at embassies?
Yes, but he also was in charge of, he was a trained CBW officer, so he would know about chemical and biological weapons.
Because one of the things that I know, because from personal experience, is that a lot of the guards at embassies are actually intelligence operatives. Often they'll put a guy who looks like a jarhead who doesn't know anything and can only speak one language in there, and have him deliberately kind of act like a doofus when he actually speaks 4 languages and has been, read into a bunch of programs. So the Marine Guard at an embassy is to me, it's kind of a tell of somebody who may have an intelligence background.
Yeah, there's no question. He's a very trained person. I mean, there's no, he's not a jarhead at guarding a door. Yeah. I had a bayonet put to not to my throat, but aimed at me in Prague when I wanted to walk into the Prague embassy in I think 87, 88. So this is there's a challenge as soon as you walk through the door. So I don't think he was in that end of it. I think he was kind of running the guards, I don't mean to say jarheads either. I'm just saying he's not a run of the mill.
I meant that in a loving way.
Yeah. My dad, I mean, a dog face, in a foxhole in Guadalcanal, I mean, that's just what we're trying to say.
Didn't Joe Biden say dog-faced pony soldier at one point?
Yeah. When you're a real liar, you're a dog-faced pony soldier liar. But that's from a movie, a John Wayne movie. So I believe. But it sounds right. Yeah. The key thing here is it's not like, when you play the game of Clue and you're trying to talk about the murder weapon, you have to have Professor Plum with the candelabra in the conservatory, right? This isn't the candelabra as the murder weapon. This is the white chocolate covered candelabra. I mean, this is a very specific bioweapon with a very specific combination with a pathogen. And the big news here is it creates, even if it isn't cleaved by furin, it is a thing called a superantigen. Most antigens just cause a reaction of 0.001% of the antibodies in your body. A superantigen has this unfortunate quality of affecting 20% of your body's receptors. So all kinds of side effects. So he put out the sequence to show that there was a superantigen in what they were working on. Okay, read. This
is Ivins and Hatfill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to keep it straight for the audience. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Superantigen, and if the superantigen isn't cleaved, it still creates a cytokine storm across 20% of your body's antibodies, which causes antibody confusion in your body. It causes a cytokine storm. So it's an antibody whether it finds furin or not. But if it finds furin, then it has all kinds of other things that it does. So to have this, and the real smoking gun here for the show is that Rixey says now this shows up in coronavirus. So how are they going to blame this one on Ivins? He's been dead 12 years.
Right. Mark is asking, what does this reveal about who sent the anthrax letters in September 2001?
Well, what it reveals is they're trying to blame uh, Ivins for three different vaccination programs for the side effects: Gulf 1, Gulf 2, and then the resulting vaccinations that happened to police, fire, and emergency right after the anthrax letters. So this is a piling on, and Ivins, we have a whistleblower saying Ivins was trying to find the killer, right? So this is turning the tables on Ivins and blaming him for everything. And it could be that this solves the whole case and unwinds history here, from all the way from 1991, which you're basically using soldiers for your anthrax testing for Gulf 1, 2.5 million soldiers. Gulf 2, you not only use Americans, you add Canadians, you add Australians, you add British, you might even add New Zealanders in your second free trial. And then you have a third free trial after the anthrax letters for civilians. And they can't sue, you have immunity, and they can't refuse, otherwise you can court-martial them, and you have their records for life. So this solves all of those things, because the anthrax, by who was accused of the anthrax letters, solves all three of those history's mysteries. And potentially now with Rixey, it solves who actually is the smoke and has the hand on the smoking gun for coronavirus. So solving the real person who sent those letters, and now we know Ivins was a part of trying to solve the crime. It's yet another exculpatory thing. Yes, the hair doesn't match in the letters. That's exculpatory. Yes, he passed two different polygraphs. That's exculpatory. Yes, they couldn't place him in Princeton for any of the three letters. The September 18th letters, he couldn't place him in Princeton, the October 3rd letters. And then the ones down here in Florida were hand delivered. They never actually came up with a letter that actually killed the folks in Florida. So there's all kinds of exculpatory information about that. But what's bigger here is not only who carried out the three free trials, but maybe the Corona bomber. So this is like the jackpot of all time.
So who is that, and how do we follow up on that?
Stephen Hatfill. Well, we can have him on the show and just ask him questions. How many times did you pair pathogens with Bruce Ivins?
Right.
We got the document today.
It sounds like a potential Substack post by George Webb. 10 questions for Stephen Hatfill. No?
Yeah. I did 2 spaces on it today. This not only unwinds the anthrax bombing that Mark's talking about, but it unwinds the first trial that Ivins did, the raw bacteria, which starts the company Vical. That's a Bob Malone company. So Bob Malone is allowed to chime in here at any point. VaxGen's created out of the first recombinant technology that Bruce Ivins has. Bingo, bingo, that answers that question again. And then the third one it answers is Dyneport. We've been talking about this since 2016. That's another recombinant technology. And then Bob Malone smears the recombinant technology over everyone wearing shoes in 2010, 2011. I put those out as well. When they couldn't figure it out, when all the insiders couldn't figure it out from all their leaks, they smear it out to everyone wearing shoes. So it answers like 60 or 70 history's mysteries, including the most recent coronavirus attack. And it's such a specific smoking gun. It's not like we found a 38 Wesson that had 2 shots fired. This is like the best ballistics ever.
So how do we corroborate what he's saying?
Well, I copied it. He actually produced the 402 or the 302, the FBI 302, where they interviewed him. So yeah.
And this is online someplace?
Yeah, it's on my Twitter. Yeah, it's an actual interview, and they were doing challenge testing with rabbits on what they call the hot side of Fort Detrick. So it's certainly, this is the biggest day in the Americatrax investigation since Bruce Ivins was, well, not since Bruce Ivins, since Stephen Hatfill was named as a possible suspect.
All right. And Stephen Hatfill, just to remind people, was in the White House during the corona with Matt Pottinger, right? During
Yes.
the entire Trump corona adventure.
Yes.
Okay. Let me see. I'm scrolling here. Can you see?
Yes, I can see. I've been all over Miami, as you can see.
Okay. Correction on the DART origins. Here we go. Rixley. Here we go. So 4 hours ago, did Rixley just say Hatfill worked with Ivins after the 9/11 anthrax attacks in 2003, putting the anthrax protective antigen into staff? Okay, so I'm going to blow this up. Rixley just said in a live stream that through a FOIA, Bruce Ivins and Stephen Hatfill had worked together on making SEB aerosolized. And that is in Cove 2, just after the fur and cleavage site in 2003. So that's one post.
And what's important about that is SEB is, there it is, staphylococcal and enterotoxin. Okay.
Right. Or as doctors call it, staph. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. He's got a staph infection. It's a toxin produced by the bacterium Staphylococcus aureus. SEB is one of the several staphylococcal enterotoxins, which are a group of toxins known to cause food poisoning. In addition to cause foodborne illness, SEB is a potent superantigen, meaning it can stimulate strong immune response and has been studied for potential use as a biological warfare agent. Interesting.
And this not only answers the possible reason for the Gulf War I and II, but also coronavirus.
So it would give you food poisoning like symptoms? Is that safe to say?
Well, staph infection, you know, when something is a superantigen, it can affect a lot of different things. So like a strep throat, when you have it, it can cause you a heart murmur because of there's an affinity with myelin for the soft tissues of your heart, or it can cause kidney problems if you have a strep throat, post streptococcal glomerulonephritis, as your dad would have, you know, bad glomerular filtration. So these are the superantigens, and the superantigens. I didn't think of this before, but this is brilliant by Rixey. The superantigens do explain a lot of the side effects. And if they were combining superantigens with the various toxins like anthrax and coronavirus, which he's got the sequences now. This isn't junk science. He's got the sequences. Then it explains both anthrax and all the Gulf War syndrome side effects, and it also explains the coronavirus, the long COVID, and the deleterious effects of the side effects of corona. That's huge.
Dave Underdown is saying that Peter Navarro hired Hatfill as an unpaid assistant.
Yeah, well, you know, somebody has to know, and this is why I think they did the PCR. Now, you remember Bob Galloway, the CI partner of Bob Malone, right? He's the guy who comes up with the Navy swabbing, PCR, and then blood sampling. So you do the swabbing, you get DNA of everybody, 70% of the U.S., right? You can infer the DNA of everybody else once you have 70% of everybody's DNA. So that's a big broad collection program. But once you get down to the people who actually get the deep infection in their lungs, where it actually takes, and we have infection, we have spread, right? Now you PCR those people. So now you get their sequences. Get the sequences for all the variants. This came right out of Daryl Rickay's thing. If you're the only one who knows that the real pathogen has been paired with SEB, with staph, you're in the catbird seat, right? Because you know what's amplifying the protective antigen for which patients and which ones it isn't, right? If you know what causes the effects, this is the whole idea of a differential diagnosis in medicine. Figuring out what is the cause is 90% of cracking the case.
Right.
Right. So if you know, Hatfill has prior knowledge, right? He has knowledge since 2004, since this paper, of what went in to the causative agent potentially. That's huge. So he's the one who can extract the most amount of intelligence from the feedback. That's important.
Yeah, it's again, it's my mind is kind of spinning. I have too many balls in the air as I'm sitting here listening to you.
Well, just think of fur and cleavage, and the big deal everybody made about fur and cleavage, showing intent, right? Never before seen in any coronavirus in millions of years, and never seen after. just when we needed a mass formation psychosis, right? But that's the only time we ever see foreign cleavage is when we need a mass formation psychosis and we need a mass vaccination program, right? That's the only time we ever see foreign cleavage, right? Just think of
Right.
superantigen as 100 times rarer than that.
Okay.
And now we have not just a smoking gun to the foreign cleavage, we have a smoking gun to the superantigen. That's huge.
So, yeah, so the gun is getting bigger. Or wait, you muted. Sorry.
You remember when they started doing the forensics on guns rather than it's just the gun, John Wilkes Booth, but then they started doing the rifling and the barreling and the marking of the forensics on the bullet?
Yep.
That's what we're talking about here. We're getting much more specific as far as what was the murder weapon.
We're getting down to the rifling. Okay, Bubba's I'm a Chop Shop says the next question is, does RATG13 have SEB also? So obviously Bubba understands this better than I do.
Well, RATG13 is a whole series of different spikes that are created in a joint venture, and USAID predicts thing with the Chinese Academy of Sciences. That's just the spike. That's just what they call the presentation. Okay, that if you're going to have an antigen swab, an antisense swab, that's what you would swab for, and then the thing turns colors and says, oh, you have this presence of this antigen. That means you have coronavirus, right? But to get down to the envelope proteins,
or do you have coronavirus or do you have coronavirus antibodies?
Well, that's another test. That's a PCR test. But I'm just talking about the one that says, presence of the antigen. Okay.
Okay.
So, but my point is that to see if somebody really has the antigen, okay, you have to test for the envelope protein. And sometimes it's not even good enough to test for the envelope protein. You have to test for several proteins to make sure what the base technology is. Now, RATG13 is a spike that you can put on the back of a scaffold, any kind of scaffold you want. So it doesn't prove what's the underlying. It's sort of like the fingerprints, but it's not the hand, right? So you don't know what the base technology was. And I'll just leave it at that. RATG13 is the spike. It's not the base technology. Because, see, staph is a bacteria. So is strep. And they're very hardy bacteria like anthrax. Right.
And they're everywhere. They are normally just fought off by your body all the time, every day.
And they're respiratory. Right? And they're respiratory. And so what you could see, you could take a normal thing that people pass like strep throat, and you could put the protective antigen splice it in recombinantly into staph. That's what they were doing. We're not guessing here. That's what they were doing. Okay, that's what Ivins was doing to see if you got uptake, to see if the person created the antibodies for anthrax. It's a way through inhalation that we can vaccinate a whole bunch of people through inhalation.
Right.
Right. Or worse. All these are a two-edged sword. It's either a controlled.
What's a sword and a shield? You can use it to protect people, or you can use it to attack people.
Right. A vaccine is a controlled infection. Bioweapons an uncontrolled infection. So there's a fine line in between.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to the 10 questions for Stephen Hatfill. Do you have any more that you want to talk about this? Because there's other things that we could talk about too. Okay.
Other things. It is exciting for people. This is the Sherlock Holmes of the first order, so it's a lot of fun. But we'll table this until more people get it up to speed on it.
Well, there was this other thing that just kind of confirmed something else that you and I were talking about earlier. And I thought this was a LARP. I thought this was a meme. I thought this was a joke, and that somebody was having fun at the expense of all of the tragedy that's going on in Gaza right now. But this was posted as an advertisement in my Twitter stream, and it's for Zion Gas and Oil. I'm sorry, Zion Oil and Gas. And if you click on this, it takes you to the homepage of this organization. Let me see if I can negotiate that here. I've suddenly lost my ability to do even simple things like clicking on something. And it takes you to this this website of this company that is selling stock online for drilling in Israel in order to make Israel energy independent. And they've got a full package that they'll send you in the mail if you want to invest in their company, and they've got like a dozen videos to show you what it is that they're doing. And so I just thought that the timing of this was kind of incredible, considering what's going on. Have you heard of this? Isn't Genie Energy. This is something called Zion Oil and Gas. Have you heard of this, George?
No, but this is like when you get past the friends and family round in startups and you get to the mezzanine round and the tertiary round. And then finally, when you're ready to roll out to get the most amount of money in the public offering, you go to the public at large. So this is the last phase of a public offering.
But don't you find the timing of this incredibly odd?
Well, you didn't know you had the Gaza oil fields until a couple of days ago. You didn't know you had Marine 1, Marine 2, and Marine 3 until a couple of days ago.
Right. Well, there's a 30-second commercial here that I can run for it. So
sure.
Let me see if I can do that. Here we go. Oh wait, let me get my audio set here quickly. Try again. So what's interesting to me about it is that they're even, I'm going to take this off here. They're even referencing Genesis and Deuteronomy in their sales pitch, which is, I couldn't make that up. Like if I was doing something for Saturday Night Live, I might put that in there. Like I was kind of dumbfounded by it.
Well, I guess I didn't make up Genie Energy, huh? Genesis, Genie Energy. I guess, all that 2016 and 2017 stuff came to pass. I wrote about it in the Brave and the Prophet.
So is this rebranded Genie Energy, or is this a different startup?
Noble Oil and Nobel Oil, and there's a couple other ones. But this is how you can participate.
Yeah, it's just amazing, and they have some documents here. Wait, let me share this tab. I couldn't make this up. I don't know if I can. Let me see if I can get the cover. But you can see on the left side here, it has a PDF book that you can download by a guy named Jim Spillman, which I think is an unfortunate name for anybody who's talking about oil. But it's got a German Panther tank, a Nazi Panther tank on the front, sitting in the middle of the desert with oil rigs in the background, and it's called The Great Treasure Hunt. And I just thought, well, how do you go hunting for oil? Well, with a Nazi tank, of course. That seems to be the obvious way that you go looking for oil.
Is that a Merkla? Isn't that an Israeli tank? Isn't that an Israeli tank? They wouldn't use it.
No, that's a Panther. That's a Panzerkampfwagen 5. Fünf.
Okay, I can't see it, so I just would. That's a strange tank to use.
It's a strange tank to use. Let me see if I can go find the PDF, and maybe it's got the cover on it, and I can blow it up. Yes, I can share this tab instead, and then I can blow this up, and we can see right there the Panther tank with its sloped armor and its uniquely shaped turret, and it's I think it's a 88. Is it an 88? Yeah, I think it's an 88.
This may be a spoof, Peter. I can't. That's really a not good taste, right?
Again, I'll have to. I want everybody to fact check me on this. Like, I want to make sure that this is not. I'm along with you, but it says Zion. Here we go. Share this tab instead. Zyme is publicly traded on the over-the-counter QXZNOG, and I click on that, and it takes me to the over-the-counter markets, that's Pink Sheets, right? Is that Pink Sheets?
Yeah.
So again, to your point, this does seem to be like I can't imagine that this is real, but it kind of seems like it is. And I don't know who who this advertising, or I know that FINRA, which is I built a website for a financial services company once, and I know that FINRA has got really, really hardcore rules about doing advertising on things like this. And if you're not dotting every I and crossing every T when you do this kind of advertising online, you could get in big, big, big trouble. So are you getting on the train there, George?
Yeah, but I'm still listening.
Anyway, you can get in big, big, big trouble. So anyway, Modema Rose says, my deceased hubby invested in that company and lost it all pretty much 20 years ago. Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. But I just thought I would point that out because I thought it was really weird with the timing of everything that's going on right now. And the advertising seems to be targeted at probably people like evangelical Christians in the southern United States, like a quick get in while the hating Muslims is hot, get in while deriding the other is a meme, and you can put your money where your hate is. Put your money where your hate is. That's kind of it.
That's the repeating pattern that you always see with these things. It's always at the fever pitch, right, of the PR, then that's when the sale happens.
Right. Well, speaking of repeating patterns, I'm going to read something that I tweeted out this morning. And again, this is from Douglas Reed's book, but he's talking about the 1955 presidential election with Eisenhower's running for his second term. And this is the quote. He said, thus, at the end of the 1955 presidential election year, again impended, in circumstances which the dominant power in America had always found ideal, an ailing president. Do we have an ailing president? Party politics, avid for the quote unquote Jewish vote. Do we have that right now? A war situation in the Middle East. Do we have that right now? And another in Europe. Do we have that right now? In such a state of affairs, quote unquote, domestic political pressure in the capital of the world's wealthiest and best armed country might produce almost any result. He goes on to say that against this background of pressure on an ailing president through the party managers and of one more campaign about, quote, the persecution of the Jews, end quote, symbolized at this time by Israel, the year saw the presidential election began. From the start, experienced observers saw that the basis of all calculations was the quote domestic political pressure which could be exercised on the American government and its acts. So I just found it interesting because I was reading this morning, and it seems like all of the boxes are ticked that resemble exactly the same situation in 1955 with the Eisenhower election. And what the implication of this is that American elections can be influenced by outside forces in order to affect our foreign policy.
Yeah, because you don't want to be talking about the Ukraine war right now. That's not very popular. You want to be talking about, the Gaza. So, yeah.
Right, exactly.
For fundraising.
So I found that to be fascinating, and if you check the Duke Report Twitter feed, you can find the reference to that.
Meanwhile, we found a lot of really great AI tools, and you sent me 23. I only had a chance to look at one, Perplexity, and I like it.
Yes, I tweeted that out last night on the Duke Report. Let me see if I can go find that video. But George and I are going to start to try. Now, it was funny because the graphic for today's show was really kind of messed up. Let me see if I could bring that up. But I couldn't get it to hide a gun in a book in the right angle. And so one of the things about AI is funny is that you start having arguments with it about stuff. But George and I found a video. It's 23 or 25 AI tools that you can use. And I haven't had a chance to dive into them yet, but I think that they are going to significantly increase the production value of this show. And so I'm looking forward to that. But one of them ones that I saw is an AI tool that allows you to analyze scientific papers. And I thought that would be a particular use to a lot of people on this channel because, not having the domain understanding that a lot of the people who we talk about on this show have, it's nice to have an AI tool that can go read a scientific paper for you and then tell you what it says in some kind of vernacular or English, do the translation for you.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that one. Show us that one.
All right. If you'll give me 1 second, I will find it. Let me see. History. And I will 23 AI tools that you won't believe are free. And I'm sharing. And I think I can find it by looking for the screen. I do remember what it looked like. So I think that. Oh, you found it? Oh, my producer found it. Where did you put the link in the private chat?
No.
Where did you put it?
Oh, for everybody else here.
Oh, she gave it to everyone else except me. Okay, private chat. Here we go. And we'll do. All right, so share this tab instead. And this goes to the
hardly ever use text
the
to video.
science paper?
Image to video is where it gets really.
Did you give me a link directly to the science paper? No, that's not what I needed. Okay. Let's share this instead.
I will say something about Perplexity as I used it, and it gives you the next question, the next 4 anticipated questions. Plus, it allows you a follow-up question in context, which is really cool. Plus, it gives you related images, which is I find better than Chatbox. So I really like Perplexity. Plus, I like the font. And instead of telling me the scientific name, Perplexity gave me, like for the program Death 1, PD1, cancer target, it gave me Keytruda. It said Merck and Keytruda. It gave me who the manufacturer was and it told me the marketing name. So that's helpful. Those are very helpful things. They saved me more searches.
Yeah, I am having a problem finding the specific link in the video in real time, George. So what I'll do is after the show is I'll go find it and I'll tweet it out.
Which one are you wanting?
I'm looking for the one where it allows you to compare up to 5 scientific papers. It's got a white screen and it's got like 4 or 5 different scientific papers in a row.
I would play a little bit of his video because it's so good.
All right.
Just
okay.
Give people a taste of it.
Okay. I what?
Upscale.
No, upscale is for upscaling videos. Okay, so here we go. All right, so it's 23 AI tools you won't believe. Here we go.
With Luma Labs, you're able to take a video on your phone and turn it into a fully interactive, highly detailed 3D scene, like this. That uses neural radiance fields, or NERFs. They also released a new feature called interactive scenes that uses Gaussian splatting. And you don't have to know either of those terms. The interactive scenes have a small file size, so you can embed them anywhere or send it to a friend for them to explore.
Here it is.
Citations you can click through to read the paper. SciSpace is the easiest way to find, learn, and understand any research paper. So similar to Perplexity, but this only cites research papers, not websites or the overall internet. So it's geared towards people that are students or researchers, but it's great for anyone that has questions in the realm of science that wants research-backed answers. So ask any question and it will give you insight from the top 5 papers up at the top with citations you can click through to read the paper and then more relevant papers below. You can also chat with the Copilot about the answers you received. Another cool feature is you can upload a PDF of any paper and get a summary and ask questions related to the paper. You could also add the Chrome extension to use all those features while you're browsing. If you're reading a paper online, you can ask it to simplify complex language, ask clarifying questions, clip math equations or tables to find out what they mean. It's a really powerful research tool to get answers in real time. All of that is completely free. They do have some additional features for writing that are paid. Here's one more in this realm.
So SciSpace is the one that it's called.
These are all power tools that our researchers will love.
Yep. So I will.
This is the stock and trade what our researchers do. This is what we do.
Right. Exactly. But one of the things that George and I have been talking about offline is that doing the research is important, but packaging it in a way that people can consume it is equally as important, because you can have the greatest website in the world, and if it's not packaged in a way that audiences will consume it, then it doesn't really matter. It might as well be in the basement of the museum in London. If nobody is going to see it, if nobody's going to understand it, if you don't frame it in a way that people can consume it, which is what I did with the protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, is that I took out all of the cultural references. And it doesn't matter that it's plagiarized. It doesn't matter who the source is. If you normalize it to the point where you can just read it as a plan, then the next question is, okay, whose plan is this? Where are they? How did they know this? And then who else knew about this? Like, who else knew about it? Because clearly other people did know about it. So being able to take but the protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion is verboten, right? It's not something that people in proper society, in polite society, are allowed to discuss, talk about, or even be let people know that they've been reading it. But that said, there is some wisdom in there if you can get past all of the nonsense that is associated with it. So what these AI tools, I think, are able to do is to take complex ideas and help you figure out ways of simplifying them, and then figuring out a way that you can present them to people in a way that they will consume. So that's why I'm excited about it.
Somebody had a telekinetic moment in the chat saying 15 minutes to 17 minutes was your magic zone. I don't know what happens at 15 minutes in the video.
15 minutes was our magic zone? I
don't know. Is it?
ECAT telling people to like the stream.
Okay, ECAT is telling people to like the stream. Okay. It sounds like I don't want to get off the rails here, George. And when you're on a train, you really don't want to get off the rails.
I agree with you 100%. I might go to no video and listen mode for the question. Well,
okay, we got 2 more questions, and then I'm thinking that maybe we should just call this early today. So, okay, so Dave Fitz says, any concern that they announced that AI now has self-consciousness? No, because I don't. And that's a much longer question. I believe that, and I've said that on this show before, that I believe that they want you to believe that AI has the possibility of becoming smarter than human beings, because they're going to create an AI that's the AI version of the Wizard of Oz or the Mechanical Turk, that they're going to tell you is smarter than human beings so that you'll behave, so that it will become your deity and the thing that is used to control you. I don't believe AI has that ability. I don't think it can have that ability. But generative AI, I believe, is what they're calling it. But that's why they're using front men like Elon Musk to kind of put fear out there into the world of this AI God that is coming, the AI Antichrist, as it were, because they want you to believe that it can be smarter than you are. But I don't believe, I haven't found an AI yet that is smarter than a critically thinking human being. I don't know what you think, George.
I would agree, and I think the AI can tell you that Bob Malone does not have a conscience. Neither does Stephen Hatfill or apparently Meryl Nass, because they won't release everything they know about Bruce Ivins.
Right. JBGT3 says, "Hi, Peter. I read that FDR died or / was killed at Bernard Baruch's house. Do you have any info on that?" I believe that FDR's death is in the book, The Controversy of Zion. I don't remember exactly where he was when it happened, but he did have some very interesting meetings immediately before his demise. I thought, wasn't he on a ship?
Warm Springs. I think he went to Warm Springs. The place in Georgia, his winter home.
Right. But he had just come back from Yalta. Was it Yalta?
Yalta, yeah.
Yeah, he had just come back from Yalta. So I can go look, but you can go look too. I think Controversy of Zion. I'm not sure. And Summoner says, what is the AI image for today? I can go find it, but it's on the card. It's on the podcast. Show cards. Here we go. Smoking gun. And see if I can make this full frame for you.
I wanted Moses with Staphylococcus, but never mind.
You wanted Moses with Staphylococcus. Be careful what you ask for, George. Okay, so stop sharing. Here we go. Share screen and window, and there's the graphic for today. I couldn't get it to put the gun in only on one side of the book. It wouldn't do it. It didn't matter how many different ways I asked it. It would only put the gun. And obviously, this is a book you can't close, right? So the whole idea of putting the gun in the book would have been so that you could hide it in the book, And
but I like this too because it means we can't close the book on the case.
It means you can't close the book on the case. All right. So with that, we're going to call it early. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I'm feeling much better than I have felt in a month. So that's good. And I'm looking forward to having a healthy and prosperous holiday season. And I wish the same for everybody else who's watching. If you want to support this show, I'll get rid of this picture. And you can look immediately below George's smiling face there. And you can see that if you go to buymeacoffee.com/George Webb, no E, and the number 1, you can buy George a coffee. And if you go to georgewebb.substack.com, you can subscribe to George Webb, and you can get all the latest updates where he's going to post his 10 questions for Stephen Hatfill, and you'll get those things first. And so if you have a chance to meet Stephen Hatfill, then you can ask him those questions, and you can record it with your smartphone, and then you too can be a citizen journalist. Likewise, if you want to support the Duke Report, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/the Duke Report, or you can go to thedukерeport.com and click on the Buy Me a Coffee button. And if you want to buy some one of your smarter relatives an edgy T-shirt for Christmas, you can go to thedukерeport.com/shop, where we have some of the best edgy T-shirts on the interwebs. And with that, George, I guess I will see you on Tuesday.
And I just want to say thank you to all the researchers out there for a fantastic day. Today was a true red letter day, and real men can wear watermelon.
Real men can wear watermelon.
They can do it.
Okay, George, I'm gonna call you right after the show if that's okay. All right,
sure.
I will. All right, we'll see you. We'll see you on Tuesday, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.